Hey all, thanks for being here today. I'm really excited. So Forward Focused has gone through some transformation this year. And one of the changes that's happened is we've actually added 4 coaches to our coaching roster. And one of those coaches I had the privilege of sitting down with today and interviewing around her journey, her story of how she transferred her life's focus from teaching and working with youth into coaching and in real estate. And so in today's conversation and dialogue, we talk about the power of coaching, how coaching's transformed her life, and how she really believes that coaching can be for anybody, depending on where they are in their journey and what that can look like. It doesn't have to be intimidating. So I'm really excited for you to tune in, check out her story, learn a little bit more about her and what coaching can do to elevate your life and business. So let's check it out. All right, Dani, super excited that you're able to join us today in studio.
Likewise.
So thanks for joining us. What I'm most excited about and want to get into today is your story, how you view coaching and leadership, what your role is, and why that's important for entrepreneurs who are listening. And then we're going to get into some other specific questions just around your future and your goals and so forth, because I think there's some inspiration for some of our listeners. Okay.
Love it.
First and foremost, Dani is an entrepreneur. She's a mom. She's a wife. You have multiple businesses that you run. You have multiple people that report to you and work beneath you, right? Mm-hmm. So with all that in mind, tell me a little bit about who you are. Like, what's your purpose on this earth? What's your story? And then we'll get into some leadership questions.
Purpose, I think, is simple, not easy, right? Offering a safe space for healing, no matter what you're healing from, and knowing that you can make a lot of money once you're healed. My goal is to help create female entrepreneurs that can make more money than they ever even imagined.
How did you find that purpose?
It's a long history of mental health, trickled in with some domestic violence in there, right? So going through my divorce helped me figure out who I am and what I want, and kind of unlearning who the world thought I should be and learning who I wanted to be. Honestly, got into real estate just looking to make some extra money for my kids, right? Like, I would sit every month looking at the bills in front of me, like, didn't pay that one last month, it has to be paid. That one did get paid, so we can skip that one, right? And I just got sick of feeding my kids the healthy veggies, and I ate ramen noodles after they were done. My sister's boyfriend at the time was in real estate, part of a team that was doing really well. So I just reached out like, hey, looking to do real estate. He's like, cool, join us. I'm like, that was way easier than I thought it was going to be, right? And I did, and I found I was really good at it, but I also lucked into the timing of it. That was in 2019, 2020 hit, and we all know that the housing market went insane. But I also made more than my teaching salary in the 6 months that I was a real estate agent that year.
So how long did you teach for?
10 years.
10 years.
Mm-hmm.
And so why did you get into teaching?
I love helping. My passion was the behavior kids, the kids that every other teacher was like, not me, right? Which I loved until I had the classroom full of all of them, right? So then I found myself my last year truly pouring from an empty cup. Full disclosure, actual psychiatrist was like, you are allowed to teach 2 days a week maximum. Like, I was completely unwell, shell of a human. My kids were not, I wasn't a good mom. I wasn't a good girlfriend. My husband and I joke now, I'm like, I don't know how I went from girlfriend to fiance to wife, because that was my healing phase. But I did for a reason, for a purpose. But it also showed me I'm special, but I'm not special, right? If I can do it, anyone can.
Right.
And I want to be the person that's like, I know she went through some shit too, and I feel safe with her. I know she can do it, and I want to help them do it.
So we still have the heart of a teacher, right? Servant leader.
Yeah.
You're in real estate now. You're knocking on the door of your 5th full year, right? And so what have you learned in real estate in the first 5 years?
Me, to be honest. I think partnered with KW specifically, I'm not just an agent, right? I'm an entrepreneur. I run a business. I invest now, right? I'm learning about investing. I'm learning about taxes. I'm learning about an S Corp. I'm paying my kids as employees of my business. And it's deeper than I ever thought. I was a W-2 employee before, and I looked forward to tax season because I would get a refund every year, right? But I'm also able to teach my kids generational type stuff. So my kid looks at long grass because it might be a vacant owner, and he's like, Mom, call that person. So I'm seeing that in them as well. I think I've learned it's not as easy as people make it look, for sure. but it can be simple.
If you were telling somebody who is getting started in real estate, here's what you need to focus on in your first year, what would it be?
Training. Whether that's KW or not, find someone that you can, one, be completely honest with, because it's not just training. Like that person, you have to be vulnerable with them. Knowing your own faults, knowing where your triggers are and what kind of will stop you from being successful, and being open to having someone that you'll share that with for sure.
Yeah, that's great. How do you define leadership?
For me, I think it's all encompassing, right? I want to know what keeps you up at night, what motivates you in the morning, what will cause you to cry. Do you like rom-coms, or are you a, thriller type of a person? Like, I truly want to know the person as a whole. I believe that in this world, people will ask, are you married? Do you have kids? Where do you live? What do you do? But no one asks if you're happy. And I want to be the person that asks, like, are you happy? And if the answer is genuinely no, don't just be like, yeah, life's great, living the dream, right? Like, that's our go-to saying. If you can genuinely say yes, I love that. But if you can't, I'm here and I can help lead you down a path that will hopefully get you to be happy.
I love that. The last line, lead you down a path that will get you to happiness. I think that's
not
that's
a
huge.
Miracle worker, right?
No, but it
Facilitator.
It tells me two things. You don't need to do it alone, and you're not alone.
Yeah.
And then secondly, lead me down the path means it's a process. It's not about the destination. Happiness is found along the way. And I think so many times I hear people say, I'll be happy when this happens, or when I get this, or when she says that. And really it starts here.
100%.
Right? Like, I'm choosing to be happy, fulfilled, and I'm going to make this the best opportunity I can.
Absolutely.
And that comes back 10x, right? So that's great. Who's been instrumental in your growth? That's the first part of this question.
Okay.
And then how'd you find them or connect with them? And how can someone be intentional if they want to find this person in their world?
So part of it's going to be like a spiritual part of it, right? My kids, for sure, instrumental in my growth. I got pregnant young. I was 19 when I got pregnant with my daughter, and I was headed down a path of destruction. I dropped out of college, was hanging out with older people, just drinking a lot, absolutely not going anywhere. And I got pregnant and was like, okay, well, I have a mini human, so I kind of got to get it together. Someone's relying on me. I can't continue down this path. Obviously, I wasn't drinking, so that was helpful. But so she's born and she's fantastic. Then my son, and I work with a shaman a lot, and he had told me that he was my brother in my past life. The lifetime before that, he was my best friend. So I just know their souls were here for a reason. And outside of them, my husband, for sure. Like I said, I don't know how he went from boyfriend to fiance to husband, because that was definitely a dark time in my life. But because of his role in my healing, I was able to heal for the first time. I was able to breathe and kind of calm down my central nervous system, find out who I want to be. He's the reason. He's like, go all in, right? Like, you're happier as an agent, your kids are happier, you're a whole person now. You're not just a shell, like lights off, and he's like, do it, go all in. So I left teaching and went all in.
How long did you do both teach and sell?
It was short. I got licensed the end of 19. COVID hit March of 20. The schools shut down. Those last couple months, I was teaching online kindergarten. You can imagine how fun that was. And sad at the same time, right? Because they just don't even know. But yeah, when I went full time in May, and by December, or for that school year, I told them I was out. So really, I let them know 3 months in that I wasn't coming back that year.
Wow. And so he was instrumental in pushing you to feel comfortable and confident to do that. Yeah, that's awesome.
And just being there for my kids. Like, I could go do showings, right? And I wasn't leaving them home or having to pay for a babysitter. Like, truly a partner and a support system that I never even had, even though I was married for a long time, to their dad. That was never a partnership that I really had.
Right. Okay, cool. Let's shift gears to like resources. So what's a book or podcast, maybe one of each, that's maybe left an imprint on you, who's been a focus in your businesses or in your leadership style?
2 books. The Journey of Souls is one. You'll find that I have a big spiritual component to my healing journey. If you haven't read it, it's fantastic. It literally talks about the journey of a soul and what it does and how they know what they're here for. I think as a mom, I had a lot of mom guilt, right? And anxiety. That's what my mental illness was debilitating anxiety of what if, and if something happens to my kids. And that book showed me that their souls know what they signed up for. And I just have to trust that process and trust the universe and, spirit, God, whatever you want to call them. The other one is The Body Keeps Score, is another fantastic book. That one talks about if you don't heal what has happen to you honestly in this lifetime, but also others, because it's your soul, your body will tell you, it'll get your attention somehow, right? So for me, it was mental health issues. And when I learned to heal from that, I learned how to be the best version of me, and I'm healing, never healed, right? So on the right path, and I'm working towards continuous growth every day.
Do you find these books showing up as a resource in the clients that you coach or in the agents that you lead?
Absolutely. If you ask people I coach, most of them cry at some point pretty early on, either the first meeting or the second one. There's some tears. It's very intuitive.
So if my clients aren't crying, am I doing something wrong?
No.
Okay.
I think that's just like why I joined Forward Focus, right? Like we have different skill sets. Like if someone comes to me and I'm trying to get them to cry and they're like, I'm not here for that, I might not be the coach for them, and that's okay, right? Like that's just my coaching style. Right. That's someone I'll pass on to you, right? Like that's just my thing. I was not a spiritual person. Prior to my grandpa dying in 2021, I was like, God's a joke. I'd gone through some stuff in my life that I was like, no way, right? Someone out there wants this for me, right? But when my grandpa died, it was kind of my spiritual awakening, seeing him talk to God. I'd never experienced that in my life, like the natural dying process. So seeing him talk to God and talk about what heaven looked like, it was just like, okay, there's more out there and I want to know. Yeah. So I've started reading those books. Conversations with God is another really, really, really good one. Yeah. That should have been on my list actually, because that's what actually started me being able to even say like, God and I prayed today was that book.
Is that the failure that you feel like launched you, not failure, but is that a circumstance that launched you like forward as you look back on that experience in that phase with your grandfather? Or is there a different memory that comes to mind?
I would say my divorce.
Your divorce?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I had 2 kids with this person, right? It's a lot to finally decide this isn't good for me. It's not good for them. And it wasn't good for him, right? I mean, when you look back on it, toxic is toxic on both ways, and someone who isn't normally toxic can become toxic when put in a toxic environment. So I mean, I'm 10 years out at this point from that, so I'm able to self-reflect and see my role in all of that. But because of what I experienced in that relationship, I'm finally to the point where I'm grateful for every single thing that happened in that relationship, because it led me to exactly where I am right now.
So as you've been on this journey, right, of self-growth, self-actualization, self-awareness, and you've started to take that journey, that message, what you've learned, and apply it into coaching sessions, which we'll get into that more formally in a little bit, but the way you lead people and so forth, how would you define your leadership style? Like if we were to talk to 10 people that you lead, what would they say your style is? Humor,
intuitive, and emotional. So I have my certificate as an NLP, neuro-linguistic practitioner. So it's just, like I said, the person as a whole. Your goals should be a reflection of you, but they're always ever changing and ever evolving. So as you learn who you are, you deserve to have a coach that can handle every single phase in your life, right? And it might not be me every single phase, but I want to be kind of like the Angie's List, right? Like I want to be like, oh, this next person is great for that. Here, I want to connect you.
You're the connector.
Yeah. I'm here for this phase, and maybe that's the spiritual, that's the healing phase. And then once you're done, I just want to be a mentor. Like, hey, if you're ever stuck, call me, I'm here. But your next phase is this coach, and they're going to be fantastic for you.
Have you read Lynchpin, Malcolm Gladwell?
I've not.
So in that book, I highly recommend you or listeners add that to the list. It talks a lot about being the connector, right? And the linchpin in any organization, or if you're working with different folks, getting them to the resources, the people, the solutions that they're looking for is critical to any organization. And what you're describing naturally is this linchpin idea, right? That at some point, if I do my job, we're not going to be in business together in a formal way anymore because you've moved on. But that's my goal for you, is to connect you to your next resource. So I feel like that's a book you might like.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Let's shift gears one more in regards to leadership, getting the most out of yourself and others, and then we're going to get into coaching specific. Okay, so this is kind of a bridge question, but talk to me about what the 7 circles are. Some of our listeners don't even know what that is, so start with what they are, and then specifically talk about the tool we have at Forward Focus, the first time you were sort of introduced to it, and how you've been using it for yourself and your clients.
So 7 circles are the 7 main circles of your life. There's a similar version in my NLP, right? It's just merging it with the real estate world. So, spiritual life, job, family, physical, all of that kind of stuff, key relationships. I was introduced to it through you, right? In my first coaching session. Well, that's actually not true. I was introduced initially in NLP, but in this version, adding business and all of that through you. I think that was eye-opening for me I'm usually the coach, right? So being in a role where I'm the one being coached and I'm the one pushed outside my box, I love it. It felt good to be back in that spot, but it helped me realize there's areas of my life that I'm not at a 10 at, and that's okay. What are you going to do about it? So I think for me, it was just stuff I've gone on, like had experience in even my marriage now, right? Marriage is tough. We go through ups and downs. And I think just knowing that that's okay. And these are different things that you can do. And how are you going to be intentional in fixing that was what I loved. And also I'm killing it in this. That's something I can bring on to my coaching clients, right? So these are podcasts that have helped me. I create, again, the Angie's List. These are resources that truly helped me. So I think the 7 circles is something that I'll include in my life forever, no matter where I'm at, no matter how. A 10 is never a 10. It's a 10 right now. And that's something that I needed to remember, that if I'm a 10 in spiritual life right now, my next spiritual awakening, quote unquote, I might find myself at a 6. Cool. And what's next?
Right.
So it's never, like I said, healing, never healed. 10's never a 10. We never get to Z because we have a new C kind of a style.
And so we've done a previous episode. If the 7 circles sounds like something you've listened to or heard us talk about before, it's because you have. And we actually have a resource guide and a whole podcast. There's a link below this video where you can kind of link back to that if you wanted to watch that again or download that resource guide. Yeah. For me, what I love about that doc is Gary Keller, a long time ago, he was on stage and he said that the top entrepreneurs and the top think tank folks, meaning they get with other people and they think, they mastermind, and they talk about best practices, they have a relationship with their goals. And I was like, how do you have I was baffled by
Sounds
that
wild.
For several years. I was always just like nodding and I'm like, what is he talking about?
Right.
And then it finally hit me. I was rereading The One Thing. I reread it every December as I finish up my business planning for the next year. And I was on the 7 circles and it hit me because one of the questions is, what's the one thing I can do, such as by doing it, that everything else becomes easier or unnecessary? Mm-hmm. And I started to realize that progress within these circles is incremental, and that success in the circle is sequential. It's not sudden. Mm-hmm. And so I said, well, what would it look like if I rated myself quarterly in each of the circles on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being ultimate, which I'll never achieve, but it's a journey, and 1 being I can't even spell the circle. Mm-hmm. And based on that, how can I stay in momentum at a 7 or greater in these circles and then improve my lower scores? And then looking at the 411, which is a tool at Keller Williams, of what do I need to do this week to hit my monthly goal, which funnels into my annual. I said, what's one podcast? What's one book? Who's a role model or a mentor? What's a system or tool? And what's a quote for affirmations? So those 5 areas that would support my physical health, let's say, right? And what was cool is as I started following this process, I started looking at it monthly, not quarterly. And I started saying, okay, from September of 2021 to October of 2021, here's how I grew, here's how I advanced, here's where I regressed. Yeah. And for me, that's when it finally hit 2 years ago now, of how to have a relationship with your goals. Until then, I was just faking it. And so what I realized is that this tool with the one thing helped kind of funnel into the GPS, which stands for goals, priorities, strategies, right? What's the main goal, the priorities to focus on, and the strategies to get there. And then we build a 411 based on that, right? Which is there's 4 weeks in a month. So what do I need to do each week to stay on track? And if I do those 4 things, my month wins. And if I win every month, I hit my one thing for the year, right?
Absolutely.
And so now that we have coaching clients that are using this on a regular basis, they're finding that goal setting's easier, that conversations with their spouse are easier because they can be more intentional in their key relationships. And one of my favorite lines around the one thing is, does your calendar project what you value? So if you say that you want to grow your physical health, but you don't have nutrition, meal prep, or gym time on your calendar.
You called me out on that, yeah.
Yeah, we talked about that, right?
Yeah.
So how are you using that tool now with your clients? And how has it made your coaching conversations more intentional?
For me, starting it, right? Doing it myself reminded me that it wasn't easy. I had some blank spots in there where I hadn't truly thought of that, especially in the mentor phase, which is kind of crazy, right? But I realized that was missing some of those key people in my life that are doing those things that I aspire to be. So it caused me to take a look at my own inner circle, top 5 people I spend my most time with, right? And truly, what qualities do I want these 5 people to have? And now I'm putting myself in situations where I'm searching for that. I've stepped out of my own comfort zone, and instead of just woe is me, why don't I have this? It's who has it and how can I be their friend, right? And it be 2 ways, obviously. But I think for my coaching clients, it's letting them know that we truly want you as a whole person. And that is why I came on to Forward Focus, because it's not just business. This is how you're an entrepreneur. It's, are you happy? We want you to be happy, that we want to help you get there.
Right.
And it's all encompassing, and it has to be, right? It's not sustainable to just put yourself in a 10 and say, I'm great. And then you're going at home at night and you're not. You're really at a 2, right? We want you happy, and we truly believe that we can help you get there with the tools and systems and stuff that we have. So it's, I would say, first 3, meetings with them, coaching sessions, that's one of the top things that I'm doing with them, just because it's critical. It helps them figure out what they even want.
Yeah. And I think it adds structure, because I know a lot of people hear they should have a coach, or they think about coaching, but they don't even know how to define coaching, which that's my next question, is how would you define coaching? But the other piece of it is, it's like, oh, wow, there's a game plan. There's a roadmap to my growth. And if I just trust this process, a year from now, I'm going to look back, not even a year from now, 3 months from now, I'm going to look back going, wow, look at the growth I've already experienced.
Yeah.
So how would you define coaching?
All encompassing, I think, is one word that I would use. My coaching style is more intuitive. As I've been kind of healing myself, I just have this ability to kind of feel energy of people. I can feel if someone walks in a room and their energy is just way off, right? So, I mean, a couple weeks ago, we canceled our team meeting because one of the girls walked in. I'm like, this is weird, The next week, we just canceled it completely and ordered breakfast, and we sat there and we're just intentional with being together, right? So intuitive based for me. If you're okay, great. If you're not okay, that's also okay. How can we help you be okay? What do you need right now? And sometimes it is just support. Yeah. But having a coach, and a right coach, it's like mixing a therapist and an older brother or sister, and just a very personal relationship with that person that you truly trust, that you can open up and share some of your deepest things that you might not have ever shared to anyone in the history of your life.
Right. I love that. And I define coaching as an opportunity for you to have a mirror held up. Through really powerful questions that gets you thinking in a way that maybe you haven't, and then gets you into action within the next few days.
You're the first person to ask me that question. What's something you can do the next 48 hours? And I've worked with coaches before. Like, I had my business coach. I had a MAPS coach for a little bit. You were the first person that's like 48 hours timeline, go. And send it to me when it's done, right? Added that level of accountability in there. When I'm trying to partner with someone as far as coaching, I'm like, that's what the world needs. It's the accountability part of it, but it's also the action and the timeline, smarter goals, right? Actionable, measurable, all of that stuff. So,
well, I guess my next question was, how long have you had a coach and been coached? Because I'm not your only coach.
Right.
And what has coaching done for you in your life? Outside of maybe some of the spiritual components of your growth, what other ways that are tangible in your world that's coaching provided?
So I hired a business coach. Actually, I left, KW for a little bit, and I joke about it.
It's okay. People come home.
My EXB baby. Yeah, I left just long enough to have a baby, and then I came back. I didn't actually have a baby while I was there. But
you were gone 9 months.
I was gone 9 months.
That's why you said,
so that's why I say it. Came home. Yeah. Never leaving again. I actually made a TikTok about that yesterday. Like,
you did?
I'll literally never leave ever again. Yeah. When I was there, I was coaching for a large team in the state of Ohio. And I just felt like something was missing. I found myself each week being like, this isn't working. This isn't making sense. And I hired a business coach. And she's like, what if you create a portal with all of these training videos? And in my head, I'm like, I can't even fathom that, right? Who am I? Why would people want to learn it from me? Again, a lot of self-doubt, self-worth type stuff right there. So through her, she's like, you can do it, and I'm going to help you. She used a portal. She was a businesswoman. She was a female, right? So it helped me fill out that, 7 circles with someone. Yeah. And I did. I built it, reached out to Melissa spontaneously, again, intuitive, like, hey, I feel like I should just, connect this person. And for the listeners, Melissa is our team leader at Shervenic. reached out to her and she's like, actually, we're literally in the process of hiring and interviewing for the exact position you're talking about, and met with her, met with you, and it just lined up. But because of hiring that coach, I'm literally sitting in this chair talking to people about this program that she encouraged and helped me build.
That's amazing. Yeah. That's incredible.
Yeah.
And so if I'm listening to this as one of our listeners, why would I want a coach or think about like getting or exploring what coaching can do for me?
I truly can't imagine going back to not having a coach. I think having that person to see the sides of me that my ego won't let me see, pointing out the healing that I need to have. It's just allowing me to be very intentional with, you're actually good at this and you should do this. And okay, you're struggling. This is a resource that you can have in place, right? If you are not rating your 7 circles at a 9 or a 10, even an 8, right? That's the sign that you need a coach, unless you have someone in your life that you can count on to kind of push you there. If you have a mentor, you have that person. For me, I didn't have that in my life, so I was just stagnant. So a coach truly helped catapult me into the next level and help me decide even what that level should look like.
So essentially, to paraphrase, the best time to hire a coach is when you feel like in one of the areas of your life, you're not hitting your fullest potential or in sync. Right. And that's a signal to you that, okay, I need to look outside to get the greatness within.
Absolutely.
Okay, great. And so what does a typical coaching session look like?
So we start with going over, they have surveys they fill out every week, just what went well, what are you struggling with? So I can just kind of know something that might be a big rock for them. We talk about that, starting with goods, right? That's the win of the day. I think it's always just a breath, right? Coaching can feel a little intimidating, a little exposed. So starting with their wins helps them take a little bit of a breath. Going over their big rocks, homework from the last week. This is what you're supposed to do. Did you do it? Okay, no, you didn't. Why didn't you? That's the big part of, it's not you're in trouble, you didn't do it, but it's why didn't you do it?
Yeah, what got in the way or what stopped it?
Right. And you asked me that, so I model mine after coaching with you, right? Naturally. But it was, did you not achieve that because something got in your way? And that something, was it something that catapulted you in a direction you needed to go, or did it hinder the growth or the direction you were trying to go, right? So for me, looking at it and adding that into, and it's not just my coaching clients, like I'm coaching at KW Shervenick. So these brand new agents are getting it, and I'm not sure they even necessarily realize how valuable that is. I hope one day they're able to kind of talk about it at the end, like, this is amazing. Because that's not something that a normal new agent training program will ask, is why aren't you doing these things, and helping them dig into that. So, and then it kind of goes intuitive from there. I'll just kind of go off of what they're talking about. Are they fighting with a spouse? That's a big deal. Maybe that didn't happen on Monday and it happened last night. Or when your kid's sick, that's going to be scary. Did you lose your job? Just being real with them and letting them know I'm here and this is a safe space to truly talk about whatever you want to talk about.
Yeah. I had a coaching client, we had some pretty honest conversations leading up to what I'm about to share. And they filled out their pre-coaching survey, and we have a question that we ask around lead gen. How was your lead gen this week? And for 3 straight weeks leading up to this session, they had put 1 or 2. And so we had a commitment. 15 minutes of our session was focused on the time blocks, the calendaring, and how to do that, right? And so when the survey came in the day before our coaching call, it was at a 1 again. And so as a coach, it can feel personal when a client isn't performing, and you start to put it on yourself.
Right.
And you also need to be careful you're not judging, right? And so that's why I'm sharing this part, is when we hopped on the call, I said, so how was your week? And how you feeling? Like, where are you at? I noticed lead gen wasn't any higher than what we talked about the week previous. Well, this client had gotten into a car accident, and they were in the hospital 3 days. They had just been released 2 days prior, and were just now like sifting through their insurance issues, the hospital bills, different things. And thank God everybody was okay and the car could be replaced. But my point in that is, numbers tell a story, and as a coach, it's your job to inspect that number. So, this person ranked it 1 out of 5 in terms of lead gen, not 5 out of 5.
Right.
And as a coach, it's important to come from curiosity on why and hold accountable, right? So the coaching session shifted a little bit once that was discovered.
Right.
And we talked about a grant that was available through Keller Williams that could help this person until they had their car back. And my point is the coach needs to meet the client where they're at, but also hold them accountable to their goals, because they're their goals, not the coach's goals.
For sure.
They're their goals, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Last question I have around coaching is, do you use any assessments to get to know your clients better? And then secondly, how do you measure outcomes with your coaching clients?
Assessments, I would say just the stuff that Forward Focus is providing, right? I mean, it's the 7 circles, it's your P&L, it's just all encompassing, right? It's all of that. It's based on maybe even just key phrases of little things that they say, like, oh, hey, you mentioned this is I want you to fill this out for me, right? If you're going through a divorce and you're super stressed and you have a lot on your plate, let's look at your finances. That's a big thing. And I know it's going to affect your finances, right? So if I have a better idea of what that looks like, I'm just more intentional with the coaching sessions.
How do you measure outcomes or learning goals for your coaching clients? How are you measuring that or inspecting it?
Through the surveys, the weekly surveys, like you said, right? Taking my ego out of it. Just because they're a 3 or a 2 doesn't mean that I'm a 3 or a 2, right? It just helps me be intentional, but also giving them the deadlines. What's something you can do 48 hours? By then I want you to do this, send it to me. A lot of my coaching people I'm with, right? They're in my market center right now. So it's very easy for me to just stop by, follow up. Hey, how's it going?
Right.
Touch base. So it's not just your weekly session with me. It's much more than that. It's deeper than that. Working with team owners, there's a lot of different layers to that I need to be aware of. I need to know the personalities of the people on your team. And so those are some of the things that we're measuring there too. How many people do you have? How many people do you want? Right? So just measuring timelines of all of that. If you have nothing and you tell me you want to have 30 people by the end of this year, we need to be aware of that, because we're going to have a little bit of a reality check,
Sure.
right?
Yeah. Gap to goal.
Yeah.
Effort.
Yeah.
Frequency.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And we also use the KPAs. We look at people's personality. KPA is Keller Personality Assessment from Keller Williams. Yeah. And it's essentially like Strengths Finder meets Disc Test. And it's all encompassing into over 55 roles within real estate, from title to mortgage to building a team to running a market center and everything in between. And it rates people from high to low. And so we're able to have conversations with rainmakers about what is maybe missing within their organization. We're able to have conversations with agents around maybe natural tendencies that will help them succeed, or maybe be a headwind in their success, right? That they're going to need to overcome. So yeah, we use that assessment at a pretty high level as well in regards to growing relationships with people.
My first experience with the KPA is actually a little wild. So I was attending a top 20 Rainmaker mastermind when I was at Keller Williams Greater Metropolitan. And they talked about this top Rainmaker, which I won't share his name because, I don't want to embarrass anybody, but he was on his KPA. He would never have been a successful mega team. Never, right? He was just very low fit for that. And what I loved is they were like, it doesn't mean you can't. It means I need to know how to support you if you want to.
That's exactly right.
Right? So even if someone fills it out and they're a very low fit, that assessment helps me as a coach know exactly what I need from you and exactly what you need from me. It flat out tells me this person likes this type of leader, this type of supervisor. So if they don't want to cry, right, I'm probably not the one.
Right.
But I can be very direct. So if you're going to be a little sensitive, I need to know that so I can kind of tweak my coaching style a little bit for that person too.
So the best example I can give for our listeners on the KPA is, I want you to think of your favorite recipe.
Okay.
The favorite meal that you go to. You have it memorized. You know how to make it.
Okay.
And you're having a friend over or another couple over for dinner, and you want to make this meal, right? And you ask them, do you have any dietary restrictions or allergies? And there's a key ingredient in your recipe that they're allergic to. Well, if you never asked them, in other words, you never took the KPA and understood that about them, you think that everything's beautiful. You made this awesome meal, and they're the ones that are, their throat's closing up and
Right.
they're allergic.
Yeah.
And because you did the assessment, because you asked that question, you tweaked your recipe to still deliver the meal that you desire that doesn't kill them.
Yes.
It's the same thing in business.
I love that.
And what's funny to me is that we follow recipes. I mean, I experiment in the kitchen all the time. I love to cook. It's a therapy for me. And I follow different recipes that I know work, right? So if I'm doing that in the kitchen and I enjoy it, why am I not doing that in the number one thing that's providing the life by design I'm building?
Absolutely.
That's what's missing in so many people's worlds.
Absolutely.
And that's a mission at Forward Focus, is to help people be more intentional about how they can build the recipe for the success they deserve. How do you reset yourself? This is a mindset question. I know you're into grounding, right? So for our listeners that don't know what grounding is, talk a little bit about grounding and how that helps you reset your mindset in the middle of a bad day.
So working with my shaman and attending slow flow yoga with sound bath. If you are new to a sound bath, it is not you literally in a bathtub. I brought a bathing suit the first time I thought I was going to a sound bath. That's not at all what it is. But he has a saying that I've carried on since that day is let the heavy energy flow back to Mother Earth like chocolate. She loves it. She welcomes it. So it's just being very intentional. I take my shoes off. I'm standing in the grass, literally closing my eyes, picturing golden light come in, pushing all of the heavy energy back to her. She's absorbing it. I just take some breaths. Sometimes it's 15 minutes. Sometimes it's longer, right? If I need it. But I do it in the wintertime, right? I'm out there. The cold is good for you. Don't be afraid. But yeah, I mean, the grounding is what I do every single time.
Do you journal?
I do. Yeah.
So if I've never journaled, why I hear that successful people journal.
Yeah.
And that isn't for me. What would you say to them?
I think for me, I started with a guided journal. A blank page felt very intimidating to me.
Yep.
The first time I did start with a blank page, it was a word dump. My brain was like, yes, right? Like we're here. And I journaled just my divorce and like how that felt. And it was just pages and pages. And then I felt called to just rip it out and burn it. That didn't get to stay there. So I still ended up with a blank journal. So then once I unloaded all of that, I'm like, this is a blank page. Like, what am I talking about here? I started with just 3 things I'm grateful for. 3 things I'm grateful for. And then from there, it kind of flowed. But I have bought, literally on Amazon, you can Google journals, right? So it doesn't have to be anything crazy intimidating. Now it's just intuitive. 3 things I'm grateful for, a lesson I learned for the day, something I want to carry over into the next day. Sometimes they're long, sometimes they're short. Sometimes I rip it out and burn it. Sometimes I keep it in there. Sometimes it turns into a note to one of my kids. I wasn't as patient as I would like to be, so I write them a note and that gets ripped out and handed to them. Or, it's just a way to kind of offload my feelings for the day in a safe place. I found that if I don't get it out, it stays in there. And that's when it becomes a cyclical pattern in my brain that then turns into depression, right? Your past, worrying about your past, or anxiety, worrying about your future. But when I journal on it, it doesn't become either of those things.
Yeah. So 2 things. One, if you stick with us for a few more minutes to the end of this episode, we're actually going to have a link to some guided journals we recommend.
Love that.
Yep. And then the second thing, what you just said, what I call that is if you name it, you move it. So when you name something, you can move it out of your space because that's all you needed to do. You just had to like name it and then you could let
Acknowledge
it go.
Yeah.
Or naming it and then putting a plan in place to move you forward, like in solving it, right?
Right.
If we can't name it, we can't put a plan around it. I'm a big believer that what you want to improve, you have to be measuring, right? And so I think that's a big part around guided journals, asking focused questions to get the root. And remember, all these tools work as an orchestra. If you're working with a great coach, they're able to use, just like in different parts of a band or an orchestra that come together to make beautiful music. That's what coaching is all about. It's using 7 circles. It's using a business plan. It's looking at your financials. It's looking at your meditation. It's looking at your journals. And it's using all of these things to create a relationship that helps you have an outcome that is better. Everybody's excited about a future of themselves that's better. Nobody wakes up and says, I don't want to be better in 5 years, right? But the key there is to have a relationship with your goals and work with somebody to help you incrementally get there, right? And so I think that's a big piece of that. One other thing I would just add to journaling, I start every day with gratitude. And about 1.5 years ago, maybe a little bit more, I shifted. Instead of reflecting on my day, I actually write what I'm most proud of that I did that day. And what I noticed in my mindset when I did that is it allowed me to look back on my week or month and look at all the things I was proud of. And a lot of the things I was proud of is how I helped someone else. It helped me put a name to what I call invisible progress. And Ed Milet talks about this in his book. Because so many times, like, we're going to the gym or we're eating right and you don't have that 6-pack yet, or you don't look a certain way.
Yeah.
But we still go to the gym. Why? Because that's what's called invisible progress. We're building a habit. We're building discipline and self-awareness to get to the result that we want to be at. And I think that's a really big part. So for me, naming something I'm proud of at the end of each day has been instrumental in my growth.
I'm going to add that. I like that a lot.
Couple more things as we wrap up here.
Okay.
Do you have any tips for anybody that's on the verge of looking for a coach, on the verge of maybe improving their mindset or improving their self-growth? Like, what makes maybe Forward Focus different? Like, why did you move your business over to Forward Focus? I mean, for our listeners, you have a coaching company.
Yeah.
And you have huge aspirational dreams around what that company can do. And then we connected and you said, I feel like I can accomplish that and more with Forward Focus.
Yeah.
Why do you feel that way? And why should somebody consider Forward Focus? Because it's not just John anymore coaching. We have a team of 5 coaches.
Right.
And maybe we're not doing the best job of telling that story. But why Forward Focus?
My goal was to help as many people as humanly possible. And I am only one person, right? So if that's my goal, I want to partner with people that have the same goal, because what you build on expands, right? And if, Nick's another coach, right? If Nick has somebody because he's got different strengths, we all do, which is what I love to start. But if he's got somebody that wants to do the mindset, he can shift them over to me and they can have a few sessions with me on mindset and spiritual life, right? Yeah. He's doing more of the business side of things. So I can shift him over to him like, hey, he's great at this. But also I'm able to learn from them as well. So it doesn't always have to be hey, go to this person instead. It's how can I be better? Yeah. I think if you're looking for a coach, talking to people, reach out to us. We can give you a question of things you should be asking a coach, because I think what you don't know, you don't know. You want, and similar thing with a brokerage, right? You don't know what they offer. If you don't even know what to ask, if you've never coached, it's important to know, what do I even want out of a coach? And is this person capable of providing that? And if they're not, it doesn't mean they're a bad coach. It just means they're not right for you. Yeah. It's like a therapist, right? I mean, it has to be a good fit.
Right. And you're taking on clients right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we actually had an exploration call with another client who I think is signing on today with you. And what did he say at the end of our call about some of the questions we were asking? Do you remember what he said?
I'm paraphrasing, but no one had asked him those types of questions ever.
Yeah.
And it was the same thing for me.
And he had worked with a coach.
For a long time.
Long time. Like, we're not knocking another coaching company. Yeah. We're just saying that he, as an entrepreneur and business owner, said, I haven't been asked these questions ever or in a very long time. And that's why I'm signing on with Forward Focus. And
I think what I loved about that call as well is that survey that got sent out, typically, like you said, 45 minutes to an hour. When he told us that he spent several hours digging into that is a coaching client that I wanted to work with. I was so excited to hear about that, right?
And he brought his spouse into it.
He did.
He had the spouse kids rate on a couple questions and the kids as well.
I know, I loved that.
And this person got super honest and open and vulnerable about his weaknesses.
From the rip. Yeah.
But I'm proud because that's the client that Forward Focused absolutely can help. And that's the environment that Forward Focus creates, a safe space to have honest conversations to achieve the life by design we want.
I think in the beginning, I thought coaching meant I was successful. Like, I thought I only needed a coach once I was established. when I'm making this, right? When I'm doing this, when I have all these people on my team, then I'm good enough for a coach.
Yeah.
It's the opposite.
Yeah.
I think it's just when you feel like something is missing and you need that person to help you get to that next level, that's when you need a coach. So whether that's 3 months in, right, you're joining a coaching program, whether that's 3 years in, it doesn't matter, truly. A coach is there for you when you need it, and there is no timeline on that.
That's right. As we wrap here, I'll say it this way. The moment you've hit your lid in any area of your life, Gary Keller always says you're missing a system, a model, or a relationship. And if you've tapped out your systems and models, you have to expand your relationship because your net worth is related to your networking. So the more you network and grow your circle, the more your net worth will grow.
Yep.
And it can be a scary step forward, but Forward Focus, our goal is to make it as smooth, seamless, and efficient as possible for you to meet you where you're at and get you to where you want to be.
Healing is scary, and I think on your healing journey, I wish someone would have told me, like, it's hard. You're going to lose relationships that aren't meant for your highest good, right? It's still hard to lose those people. Right. And I think through Forward Focused, we are that constant person that wants to be there for you as you go through your healing. And as it gets really hard, we're still here and we're not going anywhere, right? Yeah. We can see the potential in you. We want you to see the potential in you, and we want to help you achieve whatever that potential looks like for you. And if it changes week to week, we're here for it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, what's one final thought you have for the listeners, either around Forward Focused, what they should be thinking about, just anything I didn't ask today that you'd like to share?
I think just start, whatever it is, whatever you need to start, just start. If it's healing, if it's your spiritual journey, if it's your physical world, if it's reaching out, seeing if coaching is for you, literally just take the step. And I'll take a book or a note out of your book, like 48 hours, right? What are you going to do in the next 48 hours to make your life 1% better?
Yeah. What are you going to do to move the needle in your life or business in the next 48 hours? And how do you know?
I love it.
So, all right. Yeah. Well, Dani, I really appreciate your time.
Yeah. Thank
appreciate
you.
Your energy.
Yeah.
And like I said, below this video is some links to helpful guides and resources to A, get started with coaching. B, we have a link to guided journals that we recommend through Amazon. And some other resources for you.
Awesome.
And like I said, if you're intrigued about some of the things we talked about today, reach out, have a confidential conversation. It doesn't mean that
Absolutely.
You're locked into anything.
Nope.
It just means that you're taking one step forward to be a better version of yourself.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
Cool. Thanks.
Awesome. Thanks.
So a big thank you to Dani Hohl for carving out some time to plug in and share her story a little bit and how she views coaching as an opportunity to absolutely elevate your life and business. As a reminder, just below, you can click on links for the guided journal that she referenced, more information on getting into coaching and what Forward Focus can do to partner with you to live your best life. We appreciate each and every one of you. Every listen is awesome for our growth, and we know that as we grow, you grow. And so we're excited about that. And as always, if you found value in today's episode, please be sure to subscribe so you never miss a lesson to become the leader that you deserve to be. And until next time, lead on.